All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode to United We Will Grow podcast, the official Gamma Alpha Omega Sorority Incorporated podcast. We don't mean to brag, but I think we are the first to do it the way that we're doing it. But we're not going to go into all that. But just know that, again, we are here and our aim is to reflect, refocus, and revitalize. My name is Kay Short. I'm just one half of your host. I crossed in spring 2010. I'm part of the new class, Omicron chapter. My nickname is Turtle. And so even though it seems like I'm moving fast, I'm actually moving really slow. But anyways, besides that, we have our other host, Miss Candace Sanchez, who we would love to introduce also.
Yes, so Candace Sanchez, I was part of the Everlasting Epsilon chapter. I crossed fall of 2005. Oh my God, I can't believe how long ago that was. New class, my ship name was And Still I Rise, and I was Candace Phoenix Sanchez. So hey.
Okay, first off, wait. Before we even get to the whole episode, if anyone heard our first episode in our introduction, we Candace in the Phoenix and all of the Arizona and the Tempe and the Yamalandia. Okay, so how did you get your nickname? First off, why
Yeah,
am I Turtle when you're a Phoenix? What is
uh,
this?
Hey, that's the way the world works, right?
Right,
Divine
right.
design is what I would say that. My sisters named me, they granted me that name, but it's not spelled Phoenix with the PH, it's Phenix and Still I Rise because they knew kind of my story. They knew I had
Mm,
gone through a lot of stuff personally, with my trauma. So they knew me. They already knew me
mm,
before I really knew myself. Like I mentioned in the first episode, they believed in me before I believed in myself, which is why Gamma was such a great fit for me in my life. And I'm so happy to be the other half of this co-host duo here. So I'm so excited. I'm excited for our guest, Kay Short, aren't you? Yay!
I'm so excited to get to know Kimberly, but I know that you have the secrets and have her bio. So why don't you introduce our sisters to Kimberly?
Yes, so let me introduce our beautiful sister, Kimberly Gwinnett. Duarte is the first generation student born and raised in Tucson, Arizona. Her parents are from Guatemala, which is where her last name comes from. She graduated from the University of Arizona in 2019 with a Bachelor of Science for Criminal Justice and a Bachelor of Arts in Law. She is currently set to graduate in May with a Master of International Security from the University of Arizona. Attending the University of Arizona, she found her way into Gamma by winning the Jessica White Rose Scholarship in her first year. At that time, she wasn't really looking for a sorority to join, but she attended one event where she was invited by the sister who came to give her that award. When she finally decided to join the organization, it was her junior year, and she knew she wanted to join Gamma. She would describe her journey in Gamma as constantly learning and growing. Gamma helped her find her voice to be more expressive and to not be shy. She grew more as a leader with the position she was given and maintained. Gamma having so many personalities taught her a lot of how to be professional with sisters who she might not always agree with. Through Gamma, she was given an amazing group of sisters that are dear to her heart. She has so many fond memories of the Beta chapter, and the chapter always holds a special place in her heart. After she graduated, she wanted to get more involved in Gamma as an alum, which led her to apply on the national board. She became the Regional Alumni Affairs Director in 2021 for the Southwest region, and shortly after a vacancy, she filled the position of Vice President of Alumni Affairs. Ever since she joined the NEB, she's loved every single moment because it's been a lot of learning and getting comfortable in the position. The current NEB has been so supportive and are mentors to her since she has joined the board. She is very grateful for their guidance while continuing to learn her position. She is very blessed to have met them. This past year, the board was able to host regionals after COVID, and that was such an amazing time to meet sisters from various chapters. Each of the sisters from the NEB worked so hard as they tried to move the organization forward after COVID. So, welcome, Kimberly, to the United We Will Grow podcast. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here with you guys.
Yes, we want to say thank
So,
you so much for continuing to serve on the board. We don't really know all that it takes to do. I mean, we all know what it's like to be undergrad, active, an alum, but to take it that extra step further, it just is a big deal. And again, it's for the organization and the continued existence of our organization. So thank you for stepping up and taking in that leadership and
Thank you.
continuing our amazing organization. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we want to know a little bit more. Just hear it from you, straight from the tiger's mouth. Why did you become a sister of Gamma Alpha Omega?
So when I first came to the U of A, like I mentioned in my bio, I won the Jessica White Rose Scholarship, and that's a scholarship that kind of that was created for a sister who unfortunately died in a car accident. And so they wanted to keep her memory alive. And so all of the traits that, represents Gamma was who she was. So when I won that scholarship, I met a sister and she was like, hey, like, why don't you come join us at a social? And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go join. And I loved it, but I knew that it wasn't the right time for me to join because I was a first generation student and I didn't know what I was getting into. I was pre-nursing. And so that was like a lot on my plate. And then throughout, I want to say like my junior year is when I felt more comfortable and I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. At one point, I had like three majors. I had my law, criminal justice, and pre-nursing. Ended up having to drop
Wow.
one. But I crossed spring 2018. And that seems like a while ago to me, but I loved every moment of it because I grew a lot from that. I was very shy. I was very sticking to myself. I only did what I had to do and come back. And so it wasn't until I was like, hey, I think, I fell in love with the organization when I went to that social. So I was like, I'm going to join before I regret it. So I ended up joining. I had the best time ever, just like personally growing through the PA process and then just finding out, who my big was, who she's a blessing to me because she really taught me to be more outspoken, be very comfortable with who I am and as well as the other sisters. And then from then, like from that 1 year and a half, I think I had left till I graduated. I loved every second of it. I loved being an active sister. I love putting myself in the positions of like secretary, like booking those rooms, being educator, really like pushing myself in leadership. Um, I felt like that really helped me in my professional career because I was also working at the time that I was an active sister. And so they were like, oh, how do you know these resources? And I was like, oh, because I learned it through my sorority. I didn't know that, we had a program where you can only pay $3,000 and then go to Asia. I was like, had I not known that through Gamma, I would have been like, hey, like, there's other opportunities that students are missing out. So I ended up joining and then I just loved every second of it because I've met awesome sisters from like my undergrad career and then now to my active or my alumni career.
Awesome. I think the couple words that stood out to me just as you were sharing your story is the leadership aspect, how
Mhm.
Gamma really created the leader within you, and then how you said that kind of morphed into, which I'd like to kind of know more about your career. It prepared you for your professional
Mhm.
career. So when we think about our career path and the journey of life, so where are you now and what are you doing?
So when I graduated, I ended up joining our superior court down here, and I ended up joining like a criminal unit. So I ended up supervising like 300 people that were released from jail, all on felony charges. So I ended up going that route, and then recently, I'm still with the court, just now on a juvenile matter. So more with dependency cases, more with cases that have to do with DCS, taking kids from their family, and a lot of it's interesting because a lot of it's cultural based and because I am a minority, I see the thought process when these cases go on. So for a lot of people, it's not common for, what happens in homes. But for me, from being a minority, I was like, okay, like this makes sense to me, but not a lot of other people see it. So I'm still working with the Superior Court, just now the juvenile aspect of it.
That hits home for me only
Mhm.
because I'm a survivor, right?
Mhm.
And when I think about children that do get, whether CPS is called
Mhm.
or,
Yeah.
the police are called or whatnot. So that work you do is so important. So thank you for
Mhm.
being
Thank
that
you.
person. One other question is, what professional advice would you give to any of our sisters out there listening, whether they want to go down that career path or what kind of professional advice would you give to our sisters?
I would say
Anyone
it
who's listening.
I would say definitely push yourself, especially going in this career path. There's a lot of things that you do read that kind of tear at your heartstrings. When I started in criminal, I could not read anything that had to do with like child abuse, anything like that. Those really like were hard to read, and then anything like domestic violence, anything like that, it was just like interesting to like when you see them in person, you're like, this is not the person that I read when I read the cases. But I think just keeping an open mind that maybe you can make a difference with someone. I remember when I was in the or in the criminal unit with my job, that I met this person that committed a crime that was very horrible, and I remember he would tell me like, I'm gonna change my life, like this is a wake up call for me. And I ended up seeing him, I think, on the street, which I try to hide and make sure they don't remember my face. But he was saying like he got a job. He felt 100% like more better. He knew that he like made a mistake and now it's time to own up to it. So I do think a lot of it's like, you have to come with like a clear mind, and sometimes a lot of these people do make mistakes and they own up to it. Sometimes it is heartbreaking to see, that they keep on doing this mistake and it doesn't get any better. I think the other thing too would be, I learned a lot as if don't be afraid in your workplace. If you don't think it's working out, if there's not a change, there is, you can do a career path. At my old job, like I loved what I was doing, but the company itself was not good for me, like mentally and physically. It was a lot of, they would pick on you. If they didn't like you, they would put a lot of work on you. When you knew there was like a limit, there was no help. And then when I got out of that job and I came to my new job, it was refreshing to see there's people that do want you to succeed. There's people that want to support you. So I would definitely say don't be afraid to do a career change, because it would work out the best for you, whether you know it or not. Sometimes these opportunities come knocking at your door and you got to take them before you regret them.
Yeah, so you pivot. You pivot when you need to pivot, and also
Yeah.
I'm sure the work that you do is heavy work, and so being able to say, okay, this might be too heavy, I need to switch, and giving yourself grace.
Mm,
So wow, amazing work that you
yeah.
do. Awesome. So we'll
Yeah.
shift into the
I,
refocus portion. Or unless Kay Short, I'm
I
sorry, you
actually
might
want to
have
go.
something to add.
I got questions. I got
Yes.
questions. Because first and foremost, I want to acknowledge that I think we don't really recognize, I know it, but our sisters are probably the most serving folks that I've ever met, right? Like just having this heart of service. And for a long time, I've been, for the past decade since I've graduated, I'm like, what is my thing, right? I think that's a huge question for a lot of people. Like, what is my thing? And I just couldn't help be like, I just want to be able to serve and help others. And I know that. I was like, where did I get that from? Because I'm like, I'm an only child. I don't think about others. I'm just kidding. I do. But I was just like, where do I get that from? And it's just like, that's how, like, just the sisters that I've had the chance to meet, we're always in service above and beyond. And not only just in service, but in leadership too. Like it's one thing to just like, yeah, I'm gonna help, here's my helping hand. But I'm gonna lead this, I'm gonna guide this. Like that's huge. And it doesn't mean it has to be in position. It also means just being in position to create change and to lead change,
Mhm.
even if it's not by title or whatever the case. And so my question for you is two things, and they kind of go hand in hand. So take it
Mhm.
as you see fit. But why is this work important to you, right? Like you said, had three majors, but now you're going down this path, and then Candace talking about not being afraid to pivot, things like that. But I guess I want to know like why this work, and is this currently your thing, right? Like
Mhm.
what was an experience from your past? Was it something that you just have a heart for, or have no explanation for? You're like, I don't know, just I just felt called to do this work. Tell us more
Yeah.
about that.
I feel like it's interesting because when I was growing up, I thought I was going to be a nurse, but then because of like how demanding it was, and like because I was on 4 years for scholarships, I was like, okay, I don't think this is my calling, this isn't my time. So I knew I liked watching like the criminal shows. I liked seeing like how people like helped out victims. Like I think that was the thing too, just like the compassion and everything like that. But I mainly like watching those criminal shows because like I think I could solve that. But I think when I finally did my like criminal justice and law classes, I loved the legal aspect. I was like, okay, like, the laws, this is what protects us. And like a lot of people in Arizona don't know their rights. And for me, like going through this, I was like, okay, like I know my rights to this. Like I learned from one of my law classes in Arizona, it's okay if you can record someone. It's not like, it's not illegal compared to if you go to California or something like that. So I think to me that was really cool to see. And I think that kind of led me into joining the Superior Court because I know I wanted to do something criminal. I wanted to do, like, see what was going on. I've been seeing these shows. I was like, okay, so what is it that these people do in real life? So that's kind of how I got into that path, kind of like seeing the criminal aspect. But I think eventually I do want to be like an ambassador. That's something that I've always like wanted to do, just like travel, kind of represent. Especially I think I had like a meeting with one of the like ambassadors, and she was telling me she was telling me that, there's not a lot of minorities in this field. So she kind of was like giving me like a help of like, hey, you can do this. You already have that aspect, with how it works in the system. So why don't you take it a step further? So I think that's kind of, being in the government, I kind of learned a little bit more about what it takes, yeah, what kind of risks are into it, because the more you get involved, the more things you find out too. And that's also like a very like could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing depending on what your position is.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And again, thank you for the work that you're doing. I know that that's a big deal, especially in Arizona. Arizona,
Mhm.
they really think they still cowboys out there. I was like, the rest
Yeah.
of the rest of the world, they acted like that, but they like, we still out here last week. I'm like, nah, like it's not how it is. And so how important it is to be a minority,
Mhm.
to not only be a woman, to be a person of color, to, come from the communities that we come from and to be doing that work. That's a huge accomplishment, and just, yeah, just keep going. And again, that's why
Mhm.
we're here, to know that there's so many sisters that are also doing probably similar work in
Mhm.
Arizona. So how do you join forces? Who knows? I bet you y'all are working with each other and you don't even know it. I bet. Because we don't talk about it, right? But also just other sisters
Yeah.
across the nation. But speaking of Gamma, I would love for us to talk about just your experience on the NEB so far. I think that sometimes is kind of a toss up in terms of like, is that something I want to continue after graduation? That's really a really quick way for folks to like, I got what I needed. I'm going to go out into the
Mhm.
professional world and go there. But you did talk about how some of your experience led into your NAB experience, and you decided to continue to go straight through. So I'm curious of just how has your experience been on the NAB so far? Sharing the good stuff with us, the not so good stuff with us, and honestly giving us an opportunity to talk about what's really going on for the health of our organization in 2023. So I'd love for you to share.
Yeah, so when I joined the NEB, it was because of vacancy. So I was regional director for the Southwest for I want to say like a good 6 months. And then there was the vacancy because the previous vice president director had, I believe, something personal going on. So I decided to apply because I was like, hey, like I might as well, if I'm doing this for Southwest, might as well see if I can do it for all of our alum everywhere. So I ended up getting the call and I ended up getting accepted into that position. And it was a lot of growing because when I joined, I think it was transitioning to the beginning of a new year. I think it was like 2021 or 2022, but I didn't know anything about, I only knew the Southwest, so I was gonna get to work with sisters everywhere now. So I think that was very interesting to me, because I only knew sisters from the Southwest. And so when I joined the NEB, it was a lot of learning, it was a lot of understanding, what my role is, how it works with the other departments, especially like with collegiate affairs, what is it that I need to do to kind of move this organization forward. I think one of the very first things I learned is there's different things going on in every region. And so to me, I was like, oh, like this is common in the Southwest. It's not common in the Northwest or any other region. So I think that was very interesting for me to learn. And then also working with different sisters because most of the NEB is like either in Texas or they're in California. So I honestly love learning like who they were and then how they themselves got to this position. The best things I would say, I honestly love planning regionals. Like I've never been to Flagstaff and I honestly loved going up there. I legit told some of the sisters it's too cold for me. I was like, I don't know how you guys do it. And they were telling me like, oh, it's normal. And I was like, they got some good food up there. So I honestly love that at regionals. I loved hanging out with all of them. I think the
Yes.
hardest part has been honestly working with alum in different regions because I think we all want the best for this organization. But I think sometimes for me as a director or as a vice president, it's been hard working with some alum because some alum either do not want to give up the reins to other sisters or some alum,
Mm,
don't really get over involved in certain things. And for me, it's kind of hard to
mm,
bring them back and be like, hey, like, I know you want to be involved, but we all had that experience at the collegiate level. So now it's time to look forward
mm,
to the alum level because I've seen some alum chapters, for example, in Oregon, they do such a great job. They promote unity as an alum. They always have brunches, and I always like have the
mm,
pleasure of speaking with them, being like, "How do you guys do it? Like, how do you guys still maintain like that essence of sisterhood, even though you guys are
mm,
working like 24/7, you don't see each other?" And like it just amazes me. Like they just say, yeah, we're just continuing our mission as alum, helping each other out. trying to spread the word to other alum that have graduated. So I feel like that's been the hardest part, is trying to, find ways to get alum engaged, especially like there are vacancies, as on the NEB level as
Mm-hmm.
directors, and I would love to see more sisters, join. I feel like the hardest part too with my department, it's only been myself and another sister, because not a
Right.
lot want to get engaged, and I think that's the hard part when you're trying to help all the sisters, is if you don't have the resources, it makes it a bit more harder to try and reach everyone and kind of continue that unity and that sisterhood even after leaving undergrad.
I
Yeah, why
think for
don't you
me,
tell us more about? Oh, go ahead, Candace. Sorry.
no, no, I was just going to say for me hearing that, that's what we all experience even in the corporate space, right? Or even when
Hmm.
you get in business for
Yeah.
yourself or you're working with other people, like that's again a skill set you're going to use throughout the whole.
Hmm.
So it's not just specific to the sorority, but just your experience with the NAB.
Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing is just that call of action of what we can do, so
Yeah.
anyone listening in our sisterhood can say, hey, this is something that I've been wanting to do. And that's kind of what you did. You filled the gap. And so that's kind of, again, why me as an alum, I'm a
Hmm.
lifetime member, diamond, whatever we call ourselves. But I wanted to do this as a way to give back because when
Hmm.
I see vacancies or I see chapters dormant or I see I don't want to
Yeah.
say no, it pains me to know all the work that maybe chapters have done to establish ourselves because I want us to be here for 100 years. I want us to be
Yeah.
here for the longevity. Maybe I don't have my daughters as legacies, but maybe my granddaughters or my great granddaughters will
Hmm.
hear this podcast 20 years from now and be like, oh my God, that's my great great grandma. To think about that. But seriously, we are like, we're 30 years, we're still young. But to me, that's so important is taking these positions and being able to create that longevity. That's why
Hmm.
I'm doing this, and that's why Kay Short and I are banding together. Again, kind of that whole refocus part is so critical.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like I said, this takes us a moment to just sit here because I love talking. So I just want to sit here from someone who was involved for a second, but I wasn't. You know what I mean? So I'm coming more from a curious standpoint, more of like that Phoenix fire. I don't know
Hmm.
where it went. I think it got burnt out in Flagstaff. I'm just kidding. I don't know. But I want to talk to you all from someone who is not actively engaged in alum. So I
Hmm.
want to hear from someone who is an active alum, who's a diamond member, right? And I want to talk to someone who is on the board, right? What, okay, first, I want to know what do we need to know for real, about what's going on with alumni chapters? And even if you even know a little bit of undergrad, I don't know if there's a little bit of like the connection there from why there's not a very engaged alumni right now. If that's what I'm hearing, but I'm not quite sure. I just kind of want us to be
Yeah.
clear about it and not, kind of beat around the bush. Like, let's just be real. What's
I
going on?
think from what I've noticed and from alum I've talked, I think it's always hard with like all of our different personalities. And I think the hard part is that there are some alum that have been like, you know what, I did not have the great experience in my collegiate chapter, like my undergrad career. I'm burnt out. I don't want anything to do with Gamma.
Mm,
And I have seen that from some sisters. And I think that is hard because I think we've all had, our ups and downs, with Gamma. But I feel like that's also hard because if I see some alum who decide to take a break, but they have such an amazing skill set that I know that if they wanted to, they could like be in these positions or they can start chapters, like alum chapters, and like continue to pave the way. So I think that's been a hard part. Is I know sometimes a lot of people want to break from being in Gamma because of some bad things that have happened to them. I know a lot of active alum, that love it and, want to continue, but there's also that form of, like I mentioned, like there's also some alum that want to continue being active in the like undergrad level. And, we got to let them do them at this point because we all graduated, we all have full-time jobs. Most of these sisters that do the alum chapters, want to continue that unity, that strength, and giving back to the community. And I've seen it from a lot of alum chapters. I think the hard part is just kind of distinguishing that level. If there's alum and then there's collegiate, I think that's kind of like what my department has been trying to work on a lot with, kind of if you didn't have a good experience in undergrad, that's going to change in the alum experience. Kind of giving back and kind of making sure, we continue to foster those relationships but still maintain that healthy boundary of like collegiate and then alum. because I know a lot of alum want to help with the collegiate chapters, and I feel like that's great. But then I also don't want collegiate chapters to feel overwhelmed, where they feel like they don't have a voice anymore. I know a lot of collegiate chapters that have said that to me. Some alum are very passionate about Gamma, but the collegiate members also want to do their own thing and kind of drive this organization forward. So I feel like it's a bit of both things from what I've seen and from what I've talked to both alum and the collegiate members, on, why it's kind of hard to get, alum to be more active on this level. I mean, it's probably like a personal experience based on how everybody goes through things. But I would say like that's been the hard part on trying to get, alum engaged. And then, there's always some bad experiences, but I think we gotta, if you want to continue this organization to grow, we have to put our differences aside, and it goes back to the professional side. We're not going to get along with everybody, but if we want to see something continue to grow, we have to, if we have a good skill set, kind of push forward and do what we got to do.
United, we will
Hmm.
grow. Just a
Yes.
just a little reminder. I want to ask Candace, and then I'm going to jump back to you, Kimberly, because I want to
Hmm.
ask this. So, Candace, I want to ask you, you as an alum, have you taken a break? Have you not? How has your alum experience been, and how do you keep that fire burning within you? And then for Kimberly, I want to ask if you could just think of a couple alumni chapters that are just doing really well, and what is it that they're doing that's making them do well? That other alumni chapters, either if they want to start one or for ones that currently exist, can probably lean into and be inspired by. So, Candace, how do you keep that fire burning?
For me, it's like, even though I'm so as an alum, I stay active when I see events happening, like whether the Windy chapter has it, the alumni, or the Milwaukee chapter has it, or regionals. I plug myself where I feel like honestly it fits into my schedule, that I can kind of pick and choose. I haven't signed the dotted line to a specific chapter because why do I have to pick? Like, can I belong to all three? Honestly, like I'm like, why do I gotta pick just one? Like, and honestly, like because I have a bond with my Epsilon sisters, and I have no matter where, and some of them are in other states. I feel like I can call any one of them and still feel connected to the sisterhood. So I don't know if that makes sense. My alum experience, because my collegiate experience, I think was so different. I felt like the mother hen of that because I was 33 years old when I was pledging Gamma. So again, my experience was I was an only child. I was looking for sisters. So for me, the sisters are my reason why I do what I do. They're part of they live within me, like, so that's why my fire is lit. It's lit because I'm down for my sisters all the time the way they've been down for me. Just point blank. I'll keep it real. And that's why like I'm doing this. That's why I'm just so excited to give back because it's given so much to me. And that's how my fire stays. And being part of Diamond, like I just feel like there's that status that comes with it that I feel like I'm just part of the sorority lifetime. I'm a forever, you know?
Mm,
So
mm,
that's
I
a little
love
bit
that.
about my fire and why I do what I do. Stay engaged as
Mm,
much as I can.
yeah. Thank you for continuing to do that, Candace.
Thank you. No,
Kimberly,
I'm honored.
mhm. So tell us what chapters are doing things well out there that we can be inspired by and to continue to keep them going.
Because they can be the
Honestly,
footprint, right? They could be the footprint.
yeah,
So
they
if anyone's
can.
struggling, they could reach out to them and say, "What are you guys
Mm,
doing? Well, let's try doing what you're doing." This is great. Great
yes.
question.
I feel like there's been a lot of alum chapters that have done good, but I would have to say Heart of the Valley. Like I'm amazed with how much effort they have, a huge alum involvement, but they have so much, events going on. They continue to stick together. Actually, Michelle is from Kappa chapter and she's in the alum group, and it's amazing just hearing her talk about, that they get brunch or they do a lot of alum events. They're still keeping the fire going, which I honestly love. Like I love seeing their photos when they're submitting stuff for the biennial and they're like, we did this event, we did that event, and you just can see the smiles on their face, honestly, from being together. And I think I love seeing that aspect. Windy City, they're always like giving back to the community. They're always, having a good time. The alum chapters in Texas, they always have the coolest events going on from what I've been seeing too. They go to like brunch. I think they were saying one time that they went to Cheesecake Factory. They waited 2 hours in line, but they were having a blast waiting that time in line. So honestly, I would say them. They still continue, giving back. When they need to, they're always offering up help. When they need to, Milwaukee as well. They got a lot of good things going on over there as well too. I feel like all of them, maybe it's just because, they all have that same mission, kind of like K Short was saying, like united we grow. They all still have that fire in them. I get emails from some of them. They're like, okay, like what else can we do? They're willing to give up the opportunities to volunteer and do what they got to do, especially with like Gamma Talks, which is something we were trying to bring back. There was like six of them that wanted to volunteer, and they were like, okay, what do we got to do? What can we talk about? So I feel like those chapters like have been such a pioneer for alum chapters, and that's something that I want to continue making sure to provide resources to them to keep it going. There's such a great resource for other alum chapters to reach out to and kind of see how they're doing and how they're continuing that mission of Gamma.
And again, this is my last question before I hand this off to Candace, because I said I'm just like out here. I'm like, where is this happening? I'm not seeing this. But I mean, mind you, life is life. Is this all? Can we just find this on the Facebook page, like that? All of these thriving alumni chapters, or is it kind of just like within everyone's little personal Facebook? Like, guess where am I supposed to be seeing this so I can feel inspired and hopeful? Because currently, what I'm seeing on the Facebook group, private group, is just kind of like more so like purchase Gamma gear, things like that, right? So I guess I'm just curious, like,
Yeah.
where do someone who's not really plugged in, how do we get plugged in?
So for sure, I would say from the national website, we do have our alumni chapters located, but most of it, from what I've seen, they're on their Instagram. They have their own personalized emails. If like, hey, you have a question for them, that's something that they'll get right back to you. That's something that I really want to plug in more, especially work with like communications to broadcast it to a lot of folks. I know right now something that we're planning in March for my department is just getting like a get together via Zoom, because everybody's in different regions, to kind of do like an alum mixer so they can all meet one another. So I know that's something I want to broadcast more is the alum chapter. So hopefully working with communications, that can be something easy to get, out there.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, this conversation has been so good. I'm ready to shift to our revitalize. And so when we think about revitalize, Kay Short and I, we shared a lot of sisterhood stories. And so we kind of want to talk a little bit about, tell us a story about, when the sisterhood, stood out to you. I want to hear a story. If you can tell us a story.
I feel like, I feel like there's a lot of moments where sisterhood stood
Is
up to
there
me.
one that just really stands out? And if so, like a relationship that you have with a sister, right? Because I think it's all about the bond and the
Yeah.
sisterhood and how it develops over time and how you
Hmm.
sustain it, right? Because it's all about connection, right? And
Yeah.
whether you have a positive experience or a negative experience, but you even talked about that in your bio. You said you learned how to have that, you might have not gotten along with everybody. And that's the reality of siblings
Yeah.
in real family and even in the sisterhood, in any sisterhood, right? So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that.
I think, I've met like a lot of sisters that have different personalities from me, but I think that key thing is like, again, respect. Like, I respect their values, I respect for where they came from because we all have different backgrounds. And I feel like for me, like working with different sisters, I love it, even though, I might not get along with them or I might not see eye to eye with them. But it's more of like, I see, why they have that passion for Gamma. I think we all joined for a reason, and I feel like seeing them like thrive in positions is awesome to me because I'm like, oh, like maybe I'm not good in one position, but I see them thriving. Like they could do marketing, they could do so much. And I honestly love that because I really try and like learn from everybody to try and be like better, better person, better sister. I would say like when after I graduated, I think like there were some times in my life that it was like very hard because I was trying to figure out who I am, what I'm trying to do after graduation. And I know like I was never one, like I grew up like I cannot cry in front of people, like that was not me. And so I think I had that moment when I was like talking to my big over the phone, then I started bawling because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. But just like having her like, reassure me like, hey, like this is, you don't need to freak out. You need to take a deep breath. But her just saying like we're all going through this, like, you have me like going on, you have all these other sisters that can help you can reach out to, like figure out what you want to do in your career. I think another moment of sisterhood is like I never been to a concert like at all. And so one of my sisters from the Bader chapter, because I'm their alum advisor, she was like, "Hey, do you want to go to a Daddy Yankee concert with me?" And I was like, First off, like I wanted to go, but I don't know anything about buying tickets, anything like that. So she
What?
took me up there and we had like the best, yeah, we had like the best time ever. And like I met her I think like a year or two ago, and then it's awesome to see how much our relationship has grown just from like having interactions with each other. She's like one of the sisters that like I love dear. Like she took me to that
Aw.
concert, so now I have like, I'm trying to go see a lot of concerts because she started that fire in me. But I
Wow.
feel like moments like that, like I appreciate a lot, to be honest. And I know like there's always gonna be like moments where I don't get along with sisters, but like I still love them, like I still respect them. I want them the best in life, for them to go on and do what they gotta
Mhm.
do. But I feel like the sisterhood has taught me a lot, like about working with different personalities.
That is
Speaking of,
awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. I just the bonds that you form, and I'll
Mhm.
just say, like, I'm gonna do a shout out to K Short. We have seriously been working on this since last October, and I
that
just
part.
feel like it's I've gotten to know her on a whole nother level. And like, she's like, "Oh, we can worry about that later." I'm like, "But no." But at the same time, it's like we agree to disagree. But
Mhm.
I'm just so proud. Like we keep each other, the yin and the yang, and
Mhm.
it's gonna be great. And she's having me. So it's like you learn from sisters you don't really know very well.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of sisterhood, right? You
Yeah.
learn and teach from one another. So yeah, this is awesome. Oh, I'm
I
so
love that. I
excited.
love that. So I would like to know though, if you could go back in your
Mhm.
Gamma history from now into when you first started, what would you change?
I honestly wish I would say I wish I would have joined sooner, to be honest. I feel like
Mm,
that was the one thing where, I kind of look back and I was like, oh, I wish I would have joined sooner. But I think I also think about like, was it the right time for me? Because as a first generation student, like at the U of A, it's predominantly white. So, you're trying to find
hmm
your way onto this campus, trying to find a community. But like once I joined Gamma, I found that, all of us were first generations. We were trying to help each other out, trying to reach the
hmm
finish line. So I feel like that's the one thing I would change is I wish I would have joined sooner. I feel like I wish I would have joined my sophomore year once I kind of like was figuring out what I was doing academic wise, because I feel like I wish I would have seen myself growing a lot more quicker. If I would say, I feel like the process I joined and I was an active sister, then I graduated. So I kind of wish I would have gotten that more time as an undergrad and kind of like gotten those leadership skills quicker than what I was, doing later on after that.
I know
It might have worked
Candace
to your
jumps on.
advantage, though. I think it might have
I
worked to your
knew it. I knew
advantage, though.
Candace was gonna do
That's right. Like
that.
it might have just worked to your advantage because you didn't. And I hate to say this, but like we're being transparent, right? You might have gotten tainted, or you might have not had that great experience. Like
Yeah,
maybe you were more seasoned in your college journey, where you were more structured. You got all that. Because a
yeah.
lot of times, I guess from what I see or what I have heard is if you join, there's a certain semester you have to be in
Hmm.
college before you don't quit and all that other stuff. And again, that's why I don't think I ever took any positions because there's so many rules. And and I don't mind rules. I don't mind governance, but Candace's memory don't work like it used to. So, I got to pull out the book for everything. But anyways, long story short, what I was just getting to is it probably worked to your advantage. And I think
Okay, good.
I think that's why you're just stellar at what you're doing. So, yeah,
Thank
it
you.
worked to your advantage in my opinion. Okay, sure, go ahead. I know you're going to chime in.
No, I think in general we need to honor late bloomers, right? Like I think so many times we're always talking about like, 30 under 30, whatever, whatever, right? All this bull honky. Or anyways, they're just people who've been around for a long time, right? But I mean, if we're like quote unquote 30 under 30, I think that again, why this podcast is so important because 30 under 30 asks for that work, asks for that sustainability, asks for that continuous contribution. So my question for you is when you leave the NEB and things like that, how would you, how are you leaving Gamma better than you found it? And what do you foresee yourself continuing to stay involved with Gamma after the NEB? I mean, you could be honest. You're like, maybe I need a break, man, because there's a lot. Or just in general, like what do you foresee life after your time serving with us? Is it taking on other positions? Is it wanting to be a part of your alumni chapter, et cetera, et cetera? So yeah, what would be you feel like your biggest contribution that you don't want to leave, and then how are you going to continue to stay involved? Just so I can hold you accountable in the future.
I feel like for sure, like when I came into this position, to be honest, it was like after COVID and then during COVID. So I think the one thing that I loved and I felt like I left an impression was regionals, because I got to meet collegiate sisters from like the Alpha Beta chapter, from Sigma chapter in California. I got to meet Omicron sisters, and it was just nice for them because most of them were from the COVID lines and they didn't know what regionals was. So I think for them, this was the time for them to kind of, see who the NEB was, but also a time for them to be like, hey, like this is what we're struggling in. This is what we would want to see more of. So I think for me, I honestly love connecting with each one of them because, they were telling me about their stories about like, hey, this is what I want to do. And I was connecting with them like, oh, we have similar majors. Like, here's what, I did. So I think for sure regionals was really the point for me where I was like, okay, I want to do, I want to help this region more out because I'm from the Southwest region. So I want to see them bloom. I want to make sure that they're getting the best experience in Gamma with resources. As well as some alum. Like I met some alum that I've seen like through emails I've exchanged with, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to see you. It's so nice to finally share our stories. So I feel like for sure regionals was like a huge thing for me connecting with other sisters. I feel like nationals is gonna be something nice, where all sisters can get together and finally like, learn some new things and also show off some things from their chapter because I feel like nationals has been a long time coming. I think we're all excited for, after what happened with COVID, there was a lot of hard times. I think in terms of after I leave the NEB, I still want to be involved. I think the NEB kind of like sparked more of that fire that I already loved being involved in
That's
Gamma from
awesome.
my alum career. I think maybe, I don't know. I've talked to a lot of sisters. I've maybe expansion. I don't know. I think I would just have to see, what I'm feeling out right now. But I think I honestly loved, being a part of the NEB and just like learning from everybody and then just getting to meet like a whole bunch of new sisters. Like I finally got to meet the NEB in person, like for Founders Day, and that was amazing. Like I've only seen them by Zoom, but so nice to hear their stories in person and then meet other sisters. So I think I'll continue to be involved. I just don't know what department yet I would want to get into.
Yeah. So if you could say anything to sisters, actives, inactives, alum from speaking for yourself and the NEB in general, what would you like
Mhm.
to tell us?
I would say definitely if you can get involved in any way, I would definitely take advantage of it. Especially, if you want to, after you graduate, you want to be involved in the NEB or if you want to be in director's position, I feel like definitely take it. You definitely push yourself to the limit and you learn new skills. Definitely meet some amazing sisters from across the country that you never would have thought you would have met if you've not taken these leadership positions. And I say definitely like just continue to live by our pillars and what we all join for. I think a lot of it is, we reach out to sisters and you get to hear their story and how similar it all is. We might have, not grown up together, but honestly from doing the NEB and serving, it's just awesome to hear, how much similarities we all have and then just why we joined. I think most of from what I've heard is like we all needed something at different times of our lives and I think we all found like something that, will continue to live on forever and then just joining because that's the only way, we're going to move forward. There's so much, there's many sisters that have such great ideas. I would love to see them join the NEB and be active in directors' positions and kind of continue launching that effort of Gamma.
I love that. And my last question is, if you could describe our sisterhood, Gamma Alpha Omega Sisterhood, in 3 words, what would it be? Or it could be a phrase or a sentence, whatever feels
Ooh.
best for you.
I would definitely say 3 words. It would be beautiful, growing, and lasting, to be honest, because I've had no matter the bad, I always remember the good things. You're always growing in this organization and you're always making a footprint of it forever. Kind of like what you guys mentioned, like this podcast will be something for sisters, to carry and kind of remind them, like, hey, like this is what I joined and for it to be like an everlasting footprint of you guys giving back as well to this organization. But I would say those 3 words really capture what our organization is about.
I love that.
Yeah,
I
I
love that.
think yeah, I love that too. And I think that's a good way to kind of just as a call of action. I think, Kay Short and I, we are our own business owners, giving back to the organization in this way. So just some closing, reflections, call to action. How do sisters get involved? Is there an application process? And do you know what positions are open that we can kind of announce here just so that we can do that call of action? Kimberly, what can you share with us?
So there is an application process, and it is found on the Facebook and also on the main website. It's just, a job form that you go and apply what positions you're interested in. Kind of ask you like, what is your experience in undergrad? What's your experience professional wise? And then there's a selection committee that kind of decides, and it's not us, it's someone else that kind of decides like, hey, like I think this person would be good for that. A lot of the vacancies that we have is from Collegiate Affairs. It is a director for Southwest. So normally the directors would be in charge of the regions, kind of helping the collegiate members out by following the proper procedures, approving their recruitment events, whatever it may be, with any new updates that Collegiate Affairs do. Director of scholarship. That's something that we want to make sure we give back to sisters is finding ways for creating scholarships, putting out those scholarships to sisters. Director of philanthropy for the Alumni Affairs Department. We do need a lot of alumni directors from the Southwest region, from Midwest, Southwest. A lot of expansion as well does require some of them. And expansion, if most people don't know, it's kind of making sure, we're trying to continue our legacy in Gamma, starting chapters in different states, different universities, because that's always something we want to do. We always want to be the first in whatever university we can be. So a lot of it's just applying. If there's something you're not unsure of, you can always reach out to one of us. Our emails are always on there if they want a little bit more of information of what, these positions entitle. But honestly, it's just applying and then a committee selects you.
Okay. So, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of great opportunity.
There is.
So, this again, a call of action to anyone listening in our Sisterhood for Gamma Alpha Omega Sorority Incorporated to get involved. Now is your time. If you feel the time is right and you want to gain this extra experience, I think this is life changing. And we're also looking for interns for our podcast. I want to do that call of action. Kay Short and I are doing this. I think our agreement is the first year, and we'd like to hand this off as a legacy so that others can learn the technology of podcasting and being host and co-host is kind of like what our gift to the organization because we want this to continue. And so, yeah, so how would sisters get in contact with you then, Kimberly, for more information related to any of this or just to get connected with you?
So they could definitely email me at alumni affairs. I'm really bad at remembering my email, but they can just reach out to alumni affairs department. If they, it's on the website as well. And they can just email me if they have any questions about these positions. And also if they just, if they have any ideas that they want to do for the alumni department. I honestly love hearing ideas from sisters, anything that they want to do. Like I said, we are planning on doing an alumni mixer in March with all the sisters, join via Zoom. But that's, some things that I want to get going. And then also, like I said, they can just reach out to me if they have any ideas, something they want to see more of as alum, because I would honestly love, more alum to be collaborating and, telling me what they want to see for this department.
That's
I
amazing. Well, thank you for doing this important work because it's definitely needed for sure. The
yeah.
alumni. Hmm.
And just a little tidbit, I just someone just said a little idea. I was thinking something that Candace and I were talking about is maybe creating a directory. Like just something, I don't know if we have that somewhere, but you're in the criminal justice system. So y'all are doing things I'm like, that's beyond me. But I mean, a directory of just sisters who graduated with a certain degree have actually gotten into that field or just in general, right? Like, how do we build that network and just kind of housing us somewhere like a yellow books for us, right? So just a suggestion. I don't know. You could pass that on to the next alumni affairs or something like that. But I think that would be something that's super helpful to start building before, sooner than later, because we're starting to grow and expand. And I'm like, where did everybody go? And how can we bring us all together too? So at the very least, we can connect professionally with skills and experience and mentorship and things like that. So, Candace, did you have something to say? It looked like you were like, And this
No,
too.
and this is awesome. I mean, like I said, we're here so Kimberly can kind of, like I said, share all of her experience with Gamma. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for filling those vacancies. And I'm excited that we did this episode. It's amazing.
Thank
Yeah.
you guys. I
Kimberly,
appreciate it. And thank you guys for your work.
yes, thank you so much. So, the only last thing we got to talk about is announcements, and we were talking about nationals. And so, again, nationals, y'all, is going to be in Tempe, Arizona, in Gamalandia. We're celebrating our 30th year on June 22nd to the 25th, 2023. It's going to be hot, so bring your flip flops. At Arizona State University, get ready to meet some founders. Is there anything, any little tidbits or little secrets you can give us of what we could look forward to at nationals that y'all have so far?
Ooh, I will say it's going to be a blast. There's going to be some things, potentially giveaways. So the
Okay.
sooner
I
you
love.
register, the sooner the fun begins.
Awesome. So
Awesome,
registration
Kimberly.
is already open, correct? Registration is already open. Packets have been
Yes.
sent. Check your emails. Sisters, get the information. If you don't know, ask a sister, contact. You got three resources here on this call, K Short, myself, Candace Sanchez, and Kimberly. And, we'll get you the information, but check your Greek management emails for sure.
Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, other than that, where can they get connected with us post this episode? Kimberly, where can we find you on the socials? If you want to be connected, no big deal. You're just the alumni affairs person.
You're
But
fine.
personally,
So I was like, I'm gonna tell you honestly, I cannot even remember my Instagram handles. I have bad
oh,
memory.
oh my goodness,
I was
y'all.
like, I'm very bad at technology. I was like, that is why some of my sisters have to help me out with remembering stuff.
That's
But
okay.
honestly, if you want to reach out to my Instagram handles, literally I think it's just my first name and then my last name, but I can definitely share that in an email if anybody emails me at the Alumni Affairs Department.
All right, just email her at gammaalphaomega.com.
Yeah.
And Candace, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me. So you can find me at my main website, www.candacesanchez.com, and all of my handles. I have Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and I'm also on YouTube. So yes, so please check me out. I'm doing a lot of. I'm a life coach, author, podcast host, motivational speaker, and proud sister of Gamma Alpha Mega Sorority Incorporated. So yes, please check me out.
Yes, I love that. And y'all can find me on Instagram at coach.kshort. I'm in the process of picking up some beta clients, seeing if I'm good at this thing. But
She's
yeah,
really
mostly
good.
on
She's really
Instagram.
good. She's really good.
I just wanted to help
You need a
y'all do
coach.
the thing. So
Yes.
yeah, if y'all want to find us there, you can. And hopefully when we get some interns, again, we're looking for interns if they want to learn how to edit this on Riverside. Riverside's a great platform. It's top tier. But just in general, just getting us, obviously, our stories out there, documentation out there, and just wanting to get into media, entertainment, and the such. And we would be more than happy to teach you and make this podcast even better. It is all the bare bones of it. If you want bells and whistles of an intro and an outro and some music, then hit us up. We would love to teach you so that can be done. But until then, thank you all so much for joining us in this episode. Again, I just want to say thank you to Kimberly for joining us on the episode, and again for all the amazing work that you're doing within Alumni Affairs and the NEB in
Thank
general. We
you.
would not be here without you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you guys.